Hey, what's going on, guys? Max here with Because Bitcoin, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin, giving you guys a little bit of an update on where I could see price going next. Definitely lots to talk about, so let's not waste any time and dive right into the charts. Let's start on the high time frames and work our way down a little bit. Look, it's no surprise that we're a little bit off the highs, and it's something that that we've been largely preparing for here at Because Bitcoin for quite some time now. But let's just start with this from scratch. We'll work our way down, and then basically I'll share where I think we're going to go in the immediate term. So, a very obvious higher time frame level is going to be right here. And I'll make this line a little bit thicker so we can see it. It's going to be more or less this 25K region. All right. So, the bulls out there right now are potentially prospecting, well, all right, we had a pretty nasty drop, but this really was just a drop back to range low. So range low would effectively be, range high is up here, range low is down here, mid range, right in the middle. But of course, this range low would have been the range high of, this previous range or something like that. But nonetheless, the argument here is, well, range lows or support is made for bidding, and here we are. You should be bidding this. Well, it's possible. It's certainly possible, but I also don't think the break of structure we've seen on some lower time frames can be understated. So let's work our way down a little bit, see what we can come up with. Let's just go to the daily time frame. All right. So something. And again, you can make fun of me for this one if you want, but these lines do tend to work out. It is crypto after all. We had a very, very obvious break of trend right here. All right, and we'll make this a black line. So you can see that, basically this goes back to January 1st. Like the first of the year was right here, when this trend line starts. We've been in a very, very strong uptrend all year for Bitcoin, starting here on the 1st, retested it, during that USDC FUD drop in March. And then, of course, we came back here in June, had a very explosive move from here. And, we've since broken down right here. So this is what we were watching very intently. And normally we wouldn't give so much attention to just like a diagonal line, but the context of it was so important, given that we've bounced off of it so many times up until this point. So, the Because Bitcoin Discord and community and team for that much, we've been looking for shorts on Bitcoin and altcoins since up here, and actually still hanging out in those shorts, which I'll probably bring full circle, and we'll touch on a little bit later on what I'm looking to do. But nonetheless, we have had a serious break of trend here. This should not be downplayed. This is the first break of trend that we've really seen all year. Just to provide a little bit of a different perspective on it, if the chart looked like this, you already know you'd be seeing like the rocket ship emojis from your from all the influencers, and they'd be Bitcoin's going all-time high. Look, we're breaking out. Whatever. But I again, I'm just poking fun at them a little bit because you'd see that. Anyways. We are, again, we are kind of sitting on top of support, but also we had a pretty nasty break of trend here. So, again, if you're entering new positions here, if you don't have any shorts on already, I would consider this to be a relatively high risk area to enter fresh shorts. However, I do still think that we have some downside left. All right. And I don't think that the move is completely over, but you have to understand the inherent risk of opening new shorts right here, while technically we are at support, is much higher risk than up here. It just is what it is. Let's work our way down to some lower time frames, and we'll talk about some fractals and stuff like that. But actually, before we do that, I want to mark out some key levels here. Okay, so for one, we've got a really, and again, just because I'm marking them out doesn't necessarily mean it's a target. But it's just something I think it's a pertinent level, right? Like if we do start trending down, it's important to mark this out. So this is a daily time frame order block. So daily order block, and we'll put that on the top, and we'll go to the right. So this is a daily time frame order block. It's basically from like the last sell candle, down here before we had this big reversal. And then beyond that, I have this one pre-saved here. So we have CME gap below. We also have the last completely unmitigated CME gap right here, basically starting at 21 and ending at this daily order block, which, this is for sure a point of confluence. Let's extend that just a little bit and we'll bring this in. And just because it'll bother me, let's make the fonts the same. Close enough. Keep it at 14. All right. So this is a really hot level right here. I also think that, another pretty hot level for Bitcoin would be somewhere around here. All right. You can see all of the interactions that we've had. And, I'll kind of make this dashed, but you can see how prices interacted with this line. It starts right here. I mean, we could even extend it. We could extend it out here, right? So from these highs, just so it's a little bit easier to see, we'll do this. So, from these highs, interaction with these wicks right here, bounce off of it here, we mounted it here, lost it here. You can see it's a pretty hot level, right? And that level's basically here at 22.6. All right. Now let's keep it moving here. We're going to move down now. So let's go on down to some of the hourly time frames. So we know we've got a lot of support beneath us, a lot of levels to keep in mind. But something that, I'm potentially pretty spooky in my opinion is sort of how this distribution is happening here. All right. It's actually, in my opinion, very similar to what we've seen up here. So working our way down a little bit further, take this. And we'll just you're going to have to work it a little bit, right? Like it's not going to be perfect, but the essence of the move is pretty similar, like consolidation, scam pump up, further distribution, and then, we slide. It's the same kind of thing. And, we've arguably seen that over here before as well. So again, it's not uncommon to see multiple impulses down, which is, actually the next chart that I want to get into. So let's remove some of these drawings here. We can actually just clean this up. That's okay. I want to talk about this idea of sort of a crescendo with price. All right. Now, I actually want to go back and I want to take a look at what happened here with this drop. All right. So this is the one where, basically started middle of February and we bottomed March 10th when the USDC debacle was basically resolved. So let's take some measured moves here and just see what we're going to find. So basically from like the high right up here to the low of this move, we had and I'd say actually this is like the first drop right here because we had a pretty good bounce after that. This moved up. So our first drop, break of structure from the high to low was 6%. All right. Now let's take another one and let's go from this high. So from like the next consolidation after the first drop, from the high down to the low was 8%. And then following that, say from the high of this next consolidation to the low was 13%. So you can see that we're slowly building. It's like a reverse bouncy ball where every time we bounce, it gets bigger rather than losing steam. So it's like small, medium, large. All right. Forgive the sloppy the sloppy drop there. All right, let's move over to where we are right now. And again, I highlight this just to sort of point out how these drops typically take form. All right, so now we're going to go back from the high here to the low. That was 10%. All right, so for the first drop from the high to the low, 10%. Let's take another measured move from this high to the low. Oops. 16%. Now, in similar fashion to the previous one, you can see the crescendo, right? 6%, 8%, 13%. If the fractal that, we were just looking at plays out and we go back and we actually, retest some of these lower levels, let's just say somewhere like in here. All right. Then what could we potentially expect? Like, could we expect a similar sort of crescendo, where it escalates in intensity all the way down? Well, if we went to the very top of this, 22K, which would basically be the very upper portion of our last unmitigated CME gap. Well, that would be bigger than the previous two drops. So that'd be 18%. Maybe we go down a little bit further, 22%. If something similar to this previous move takes form, which again, we will find out soon, we could expect small, medium, large, and then maybe we start talking about a reversal. So again, it's just speculation, right? Like what could potentially happen from here? Truthfully, like I don't think we're done yet. Like I don't think that you can understate the significance of this break of structure that we had, and it's not going to go straight down, right? Like I think we'll keep moving sideways for a bit, but if demand isn't found and found soon, well then, things get a little bit spooky. I posted this in my last video, and I'd like to just I'd like to pull this up, and we'll just go over it real quick. But it would be, I believe it was, yeah, it was effectively this right here. It was this, or I guess we could look at this one too. But let's look at this one. So this is Bitcoin, and again, the reason I show this is charts strive for symmetry, and maybe you can call it market makers that are creatures of habit, or a big program, or trickery on people that don't spend enough time looking at the charts. But typically the way that things bottom will be similar to the way things top, and vice versa. So I started to notice some similarities back up in this 30K region to basically how we had bottomed initially on Bitcoin, after the FTX drop. And I said to myself, this is spooky similar, right? It really started with, it started with this sweep of the low, right? So the FTX capitulation swept this low, this high time frame low that was set. And then we came down and, we did this. This was a pretty clear trap right here. Like it looked like we were about to actually like start to slide even more, and it got basically swept back up. So that was pretty clear sign that, at least in the short term, we weren't going to really do too much or capitulate. But I started to notice basically the same play taken out here, where we didn't have like FUD to the upside, right? But we were promised BlackRock was coming, like the BlackRock ETF. This was like the inverse sentiment of what we saw down here. This one is Bitcoin is dead, will never recover from FTX. This pump that we had, this last one from 25 to 31, was the ETFs are coming. Big money is coming. Bitcoin's going to be globally adopted by, $1 trillion conglomerate and every family office in the world and whatever. And turns out, if you actually knew where to look, most of this volume, like 90% of this volume that actually pushed us from 25 to 31, was actually perps driven and not spot driven. And for those that don't know the difference, when I say perps driven, it just means that people are buying basically fake Bitcoin on leverage. They're not actually buying Bitcoin and holding it. They're basically just speculating on the price. It's a synthetic market. And the prices between perps and spot, they're interconnected, but this wasn't true demand, right? This was price speculation. This was people on Bybit, aping in on support in the name of BlackRock coming to pump their bags. And of course, the difference between actually buying Bitcoin and just playing the perps market is when you bet money on a perps play, you're subject to liquidation, or forced closure or a margin call in a more traditional sense. So, this was, again, it was a fake move, right? And this was the exact inverse of the sentiment here. And then we saw something very similar at the highs as well. Similar to this move, we saw a sweep, and we start to slowly slide, or accumulate down here. And I said, this is going to play out very, very similarly. I can feel it. So, here we are now. We've been short from up here. It's been going very well. And now the question remains, where potentially are we in the structure? Well, I would say this, we're probably, closest to right here. If this is going to continue to play out, I'll make this blue, and I'll make this even thicker. I think probably from this high, this is probably where we're at. And, you could say, well, this one, we wicked into it right here. This is very clearly different. We wicked into it. Well, actually, on some exchanges, we did go below it. On some exchanges, I'm looking on Binance, some exchanges, we did go below this wick. Let me see if I can find it quick. Bitcoin, USDT. believe it was on Bybit perps. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure it was this one. Yeah, it was. So you could say, well, it was clearly different because, on this one we went, clearly there were some wicks. There were some wicks here, and this hasn't hit it, so your fractal is invalidated. Well, the move was so violent, we actually did go, we actually went significantly below, this line on certain exchanges. So anyways, I don't think the point of it is, it's not to nitpick it, right? Like it's sort of the spirit of the move in which we're correlating, nothing more, nothing less. So if I had to guess where we're at, probably around here, in another consolidation before another potential move, truthfully. So, if that were to play out, we would be expecting, basically one more move down, sort of another impulse like this. We can take a fractal. Again, it won't play out exactly like it, but, what would it potentially look like? We could do something like this. If this continues to play out, which at this point, it's working, right? So that would take us down to our last unmitigated CME gap. And just for those that still don't know what I'm talking about, maybe I haven't explained it well enough. Bitcoin has these gap downs, and here's our last unmitigated one. So this is a CME futures gap, and this has a really high hit rate over a long period of time. Like, it's like a 90% hit rate, basically, going back to the creation of Bitcoin CME futures. So typically these fill. We left this one behind. So, if maybe, we want to imagine that be some level of support, perhaps, we would come down, and this is our level. This is the CME gap right around here. So again, I'm still expecting down, but truthfully, it's a bit of a time-based invalidation for me. I would be less convicted in my shorts if we don't gap down like this weekend. I would want to see us basically follow this fractal. So this is what I'm looking for here. I'll go down a little bit. So I would want to see this fractal getting covered pretty closely. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we should start to sell off here pretty soon. Like it should be like tomorrow into the weekend if we're gonna really slide. I'd want to see us below this range low. Like this is my playbook right here. I'm gonna follow the fractal because typically the dumps are not always the same, but they're very, very close. They take the same plays just like they did it. They did this fractal is from right up here. This is from literally the last dump. The same type of moves, they work over and over and over again. So I would expect us sometime like tomorrow or later today to be down here, sub 26K. And then basically from there, I would expect a free fall. If we're going to get the nuke, I'm going to be looking for some reason to give us a nuke. I want to see us below this range. And I want to see it soon. So if Sunday night comes about and, we're still just like doing this, I lose conviction slowly. Like I need to see some progress. This is an opportunity for the bears, and they have to capitalize. So where I'd potentially compound is, down here in this potential cluster, if we got something like that. And the timing doesn't have to be perfect. It could happen like over here, right? But you start to lose this range low, then maybe you could start compounding something like that. So anyways, that's more or less it. I am short some altcoins as well, just hanging out, really waiting to see if there's going to be some fireworks, but I don't think that the move is over. I guess that time will tell, right? But anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Just a quick little update for you on what I'm potentially seeing coming next for Bitcoin's price. If you guys enjoyed the video and you actually want to trade with me and the entire Because Bitcoin team live every single day, we have a really awesome premium Discord down below in the description, so be sure to check that out. We are offering free trials of that, so no risk. Come check it out. Come hang out. It's growing like crazy, and we've been killing it in these markets lately, so it should be a good time. But anyways, guys, please like and subscribe to the video. Consider checking out some of the premium content down below and jumping on that free trial, and we will see you next time. Take care.